Well, our owner, the late legendary Bob Keeve, who always believed in local radio, they presented him with an offer, and he knew he had to take it or his board would have removed him because it was an offer for $58.9 million. Their thought process, we'll bring this in part of the chain and we'll say, we have stations in San Jose and Los Angeles and San Diego and Denver, and we're going to sell it for billions of dollars. The thing of it is the only people who could afford to buy them were the other chains. And so, yeah, so you've seen these like recently Odyssey and all the big companies, iHeart, they are just laying people off. I get an industry newsletter every day on my phone. And I promise you, I open it maybe once or twice a week because it's so depressing. All it is people getting fired. All it is people retiring or leaving.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I am become a new friend. We actually got to meet in person. It's rare, over 940 shows. He's a podcast host, radio shows. We'll learn all about that. But it's rare that you can have a chance to meet somebody in person. It's such a different dynamic and different conversation. And so now we're ready to do a podcast, and we're going to learn all about our guest today. Before we start, a servant heart always has to give gratitude. Here's your gratitude for today. There's only one of you, and you are important. Do you think you're important today? Well, now you do, because you are. When you wake up out of bed, you become important to somebody, something, a pet, whatever. Just be important. And I love these are random. I don't know what they're going to be when I pick them. But this gentleman's become important to me because we've done some great things, and we're going to do some great things together. So let's bring our guest on. Gary, welcome to the show, or GST as we call you.
Yeah, I am so thrilled to be here. And I'm telling you, you guys, I know you envy me. I got to spend 2 hours with Steve on a Saturday morning drinking coffee and hearing his stories and hearing his life and getting to share what was going on with me. And it's like I'm said entire. I was telling my wife, she goes, "Did you have fun?" I said, literally, that would cost anybody else a couple of $1,000s what I just got. Right. Because that's the value of what he just gave me, of just, hey, this, that. So, man, it's so delightful to see you again.
Yes. And 37 years in radio. Am I wrong?
I'm 37 years at this station.
Okay.
I've been doing radio since I was 13 years old. I'm not 13 anymore. I am closing in on 50 years in radio, 50-year broadcasting career, right? Started in 1976. So yeah, it's been a while. And what a blessing that most people don't get to do anything they love for as long as I've got to do it. And I always tell everybody, I am the most blessed man you know. And I do not know who's in second place because I am that far ahead.
What keeps you going after 50 years?
The joy of it, the joy of doing it, the audience. You know, sometimes the most important thing I can do is just show up, right? To be there that day. There's days I've had great shows where I'm like, man, that was awesome. Nobody cared. And then there's shows that I just completely have, whatever. And you'll find out later that, hey, there was this one morning you said this and it just changed my whole day. And you're like, wow. So however God wants to use me, and just having that I love meeting people. I literally had a meeting yesterday with this guy who just came onto this company, and he goes, I've got Gary and Julie in the morning stuck in my head and it'll never leave. That's the jingle we have for our show, because I do my show with Julie. And I'm like, what a cool thing, right? That I go into a meeting with somebody I've never met, I don't know, and he's like, I'm so excited to meet you. I've had this jingle in my head my entire life. And I'm like, wow. And so having that experience, having someone, I always tell people, I try to do a break every few months when I think about it, but I always try to stop and say, thank you for letting me be a part of your life. I appreciate it. You could choose not to have me in your life. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. And we are so blessed that you get a lot of slings and arrows, right? You get a lot of, yeah, I've told everybody, you can say good morning and you're going to make someone mad. Eh, And if you figure out how to survive in this business, you don't care. You only care about the people you know. You care about the people who you love and you know who love you back. That carries weight. But if I don't know you, I'll listen to your complaint about me if you're civil and nice, and I'll try to be the same to you. If you just want to call and yell at me, I don't have any interest in that.
Yeah.
But having that, but I get so many attaboys though. I get so many people. I've got stories I could tell you that, heck, make me cry. I know they make everybody else cry when they hear them. From just things that people have said, you got to be a part of this moment in my life or our life, and it's overwhelming.
Well, we talked stories before the show. Why don't you tell us one of your favorite stories?
Oh gosh, which one? You want something funny? You want something?
Funny.
Okay.
Give us a funny one.
So we were doing this giveaway at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds, and it was a key. So we had a big thing of keys in a bowl. I mean, like 120 keys, because we had 120 entries or something like that. And and then we narrowed that down to like 50, because otherwise people are gonna be there all day. So we did a little thing where we narrowed it down to 50 and stuff. So what you would do is you would walk up on stage, you would grab a key from the bowl, and then you'd try the lock. If it open, yay. If you didn't, and I'm sitting there on stage, and people would walk up on stage, and I'd do a little something with them every time. Right? Hey. Well, this lady, looked like she's probably about 7, 8 months pregnant. She walks up on stage and she grabs a key. And I said, hey, if you win, maybe you can name the baby after me. And her husband looks at me with, what did you do? He looks at me like, and then I understood immediately. She wasn't pregnant. And I was like, hey, let's try that key. Oh, it's a loser. Sorry, next time. Just trying to get him off stage. But
Wow.
at that moment, I was like, holy moly, what did you just do? And, and the audience, some got it, some didn't. But I will never remember. And then my coworkers were on stage. They saw the face too. And you could just see everybody go, ooh, Gary.
And boys, that story's a life. How did, miscommunication, whether intentional or not, happens all the time. Well, happens in life. And how do we respond from that? Powerful.
Don't draw attention to it.
Yeah.
Don't draw attention to it.
That's a good
That's
point.
the thing I've always sat back and said. I was on the air one morning years ago, and not a hero. I was in Colorado. I worked in Colorado, and I worked with this guy. He was doing the morning show with me, and we were talking about the Lakers had just won the championship. And I was going to say, man, I hate those suckers. So you've already figured out what happened. Well, I made my mistake, and his eyes go this big. He's sitting in front of me. His eyes go this big. And I calmly didn't stop talking. I leaned over because I was controlling the control board. I reached over and I turned his microphone off. And we just kept moving forward. And I just said, yeah, okay, it's 722, got a high of 38 degree, blah, blah, blah. And then go into commercials. And of course, he's blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, don't say anything. Let's just see what happens. Don't say anything. So we go the rest of the show and received 0 complaints, because most people have that self-correcting thing. You have autocorrect in your head. And so you're like, there's no way he said that, and yeah. So I learned, don't stop and go, hey, y'all, I screwed up, unless you can find comedy gold. Johnny Carson, if you're old enough, and you or I are old enough, the funniest he ever was is when he screwed up. But he was talented enough to know how to milk it. And most people aren't. Most people just, I screwed up, instead of finding the joy in it and finding your humanity in your screw ups.
So brilliant, Gary, because what comes to my head is outtakes of movies.
Yeah.
They don't do them much anymore, but me and my wife go, Marvel's a perfect example, and those aren't mistakes, but yeah, you see I think they're called outtakes or whatever that phrase, where they've blubbed it up. they're the funniest. I was watching a show, and they were showing outtakes of a very successful guy, and he was like, "Are you still filming?" I was laughing my butt off because we are going to make mistakes. We're not hurting
Absolutely.
somebody, not doing something illegal. It's okay. So let's talk radio. Okay, it's
Okay.
gone through its ups and downs, and I don't know
Oh,
where it's at today.
it's
Yeah,
certainly in a
right.
down phase now.
Yeah,
It
okay.
is a tough place to be right now.
So what do you think in the future of it looks like?
It will reset back to its default mode. That when I first got into radio, it was locally owned small town stuff. You sold commercials to, in my case, Staggers IGA or the Piggly Wiggly or the Western Auto or the local furniture store. And you didn't make a killing, but you made enough to live. You made enough to make a profit. You made enough to be a member of the community. And then the broadcasting companies got in, and what happened, and this is my take, they started overpaying for radio stations because they were going to build a chain and then they were going to sell the chain for $1 billion. I mean, it had, when here at KRTY, we had a sister station, Cara. People remember Cara of Santa Clara.
Yeah.
And it was a 50,000 watt FM. Now, to give you an idea, KRTY had 880 watts.
Wow.
Your hair dryer had more wattage than our radio station because radio signals are built. The FM looks like a jigsaw puzzle, and they're all built to design to fit in and stuff like that. And we have a dense population. When I grew up in South Alabama, it was 100,000 watt FMs because there's nobody around. There was just to reach the
Wide
population,
open.
you had to have a big signal. So 100,000 watt FMs were. I didn't know they'd made anything less than 100,000 watt FM. So Cara had a 50,000, which is very unusual for a city this size. Well, back in 2001, two Latino broadcasting chains wanted to buy Cara. Now, this is a time when stations were still overinflated, but the station, my guesstimate that Cara was, I'm giving you a rough guesstimate, probably worth $12 million in
Mm-hmm.
those days, right? About 12 million, maybe higher, 15, 16. Well, our owner, the late legendary Bob Keeve, who always believed in local radio, they presented him with an offer, and he knew he had to take it or his board would have removed him because it was an offer for $58.9 million. Their thought process, we'll bring this in part of the chain and we'll say, we have stations in San Jose and Los Angeles and San Diego and Denver, and we're going to sell it for billions of dollars. The thing of it is the only people who could afford to buy them were the other chains. And so, yeah, so you've seen these like recently Odyssey and all the big companies, iHeart, they're just laying people off. I get an industry newsletter every day on my phone. And I promise you, I open it maybe once or twice a week because it's so depressing. All it is people getting fired. All it is people retiring or leaving. And if the people who are staying, listen, when I did terrestrial radio, is what we called it, on a signal, I had one job. My job was to do the morning show. And if there were like extra things like doing a commercial or something like that, I got paid for it, right? But that was have one job. Most of the people you hear on radio now probably have anywhere at minimum 5 up to 20 jobs because they're recording for the chain. So you may do mornings in San Jose and you get off the air and you start recording the afternoon show for Tacoma, Washington. And then you get done with that and you do the afternoon show for St. Louis, Missouri. And then you get done with that and you record the evening show for Providence, Rhode Island. Right? And you're just there. So you get there at 5 o'clock in the morning and you leave at 6 at night and you work all day long. And they don't pay you extra. So you don't get paid more money for doing all those other stations. You're just lucky to be employed. Um, a buddy of mine who I used to work with, I just saw in the industry because he retired, but he really did. He's an elected official now, but he saw where his old morning show partner went back to their old station. And I said, "Did they call you?" He goes, "I told them not to. I would not go back and sit back and wonder every day if the key was going to fit. And I'm like, I get you. I get you.
Interesting.
So it is. I love radio with all my heart. I do. I just think it's the most awesome thing. It'll come back. Some, you can see it already 15, 20 years from now. Some 19-year-old is going to go, listen, here's the idea. It's a live podcast with no pictures. You listen to it and you can call in and they talk about it's amazing. That's coming.
Yeah. Just pivoting, changing.
Mm-hmm.
For hosts out there that listen, what's one piece of advice you give them when they're hosting a show? It doesn't matter if it's podcast, TV, whether they're interviewing or not. There's some general, I don't know if I call them rules or advice you give. What are those?
Listen intently and don't be afraid of silence. And the experience helps. We are built to fill in the dead air. And I've had guests, and I tell you what, I love awkward guests. I've had awkward guests on. And I've known some country singers who are very awkward that I love to pieces, that I just think are so funny. And I will just go, hey, man, what's new with you? And hey, well, just this, that. I'll just sit there. And then he'll fill in some more. And that's the gold. Because then he'll start saying just the most bizarre, weird things. But learning to not be afraid of that lull. And also, don't be afraid of emotions. And that has really changed. When I first got in, the idea of ever hear somebody heartbreak in your voice. No. And I've always done a show where I'm open. And if you've listened to KRTY or if you listen to my podcast, there's a good chance at some point you heard me cry. I got no problem with that. I love that I have that experience I can share with people. And that's the thing you have to do. And if you're going to go down rabbit holes, only go down rabbit holes the guest leads you down. Don't bring them down your rabbit hole. Stay on theirs, because that's where their interest is. That's the stuff that you need to hear. And it's kind of cool, right? That's when you really get to know them.
Yeah.
That's when you really get to find out who they truly are. If you find out they're a Jimi Hendrix fan and you dive into that and they start telling you all these wild, bizarre things about Jimi Hendrix, man, they've just added something to your show that you didn't have.
Yeah. And that doesn't happen with research, and that you shouldn't do that. But I do a lot of research. I didn't have to. I spent 2 hours with you. I didn't have to do research, but we got to be careful of analysis for paralysis, or wherever that phrase is, paralysis for the analysis, doing too much, because those rabbit holes don't happen. If I got this script, I'm doing this, and this, I might miss over this Jimi Hendrix thing, which would be the biggest goal of the whole show, right?
I get, because we're at the stage now where we get reached out to by publicists, which is cool. And they will always, they'll ask, so what are you going to talk about? And I always tell everybody the same thing. I'm like, I will know everything about my guests when they walk in. I got no questions. I've got none whatsoever. I'll be interested in who they are and their experiences. And the research comes up when they say something, right? When they go, oh, it's like yesterday I did a podcast with Dr. Michael Gillen, who used to be the science reporter for ABC News. And we were talking, and I had, in my research, he had taken a class from Carl Sagan and had kind of ticked Carl Sagan off. Right. So he was talking about that, and he goes, yeah, at Cornell. And I'm like, do you remember the Carl Sagan? Did he affect the way you say billions? And he starts laughing and stuff. And he goes, yeah. And I said, how was he? What was that like? Because I'd done the research, but then I just got to ask a question and he got to fill in. Right. So that's a case of doing the research, but the question is open-ended. Yeah. I didn't go, hey, I read that you had a fight with Carl Sagan and blah, blah, blah. I just got to throw it out there and I could let him decide which way we were going to go with it.
Yep. Yep. And they're in control. And I like that. I always hear in my head the 80-20 rule. You talk 20, 25%, 70, 80, 75%, your guest. And sometimes the ratio changes, especially like we're going to be more conversational because we know each other. Um, do you think podcasting is similar to radio, just a different format?
No, podcasting, one of the reasons our friend Brian Kramer tried to get me into podcasting almost 20 years ago. And I didn't do it because I didn't use it. I didn't know what it was like. I have no idea. Wish I'd have started when he told me.
Don't
Uh,
we?
yeah. And, but he was a forward thinker.
Mm-hmm.
And, when COVID happened, all of our, all of our interviews on radio were literally between 2 and 5 minutes. You can't do anything in 2 to 5 minutes. You can go, hey, how are you? Quick question. Tell me about the song. Here it is. Right. Well, in COVID, I sat down with my general manager at the time and I said, I think we have more time. Why don't we go into longer interviews? He goes, yeah, I think you're right. And he took it to the record companies and he goes, we want to do longer interviews, say 15 minutes. And they were like, because they weren't touring. And the acts were like, okay, not like we're doing anything. And it is such a different skill set to go from 2 to 5 minutes to 15 minutes and keep it interesting. And then to do a podcast, because mine will go up to an hour. I've done an hour, 20 minutes, but I try not to do over an hour because I can't listen for over an hour. I'm talking when I listen to a podcast. Joe Rogan, the greatest of all time. I've never heard a full episode in my entire life, right? Because I don't have it. And I understand you're a UPS driver, you're driving in a car all day. 4 hours is wonderful to you. But I try to keep it limited. But having that hour-long conversation, man, that's different than what radio ever did. And so I had to train myself. You and I talked. I told you the first year of my podcast, I totally funded it by myself because I told my wife, I said, I don't want anybody paying for my learning curve. So I need to get my learning curve up to where I feel comfortable that I can go, I know what I'm doing. I know how to do this. And now join me in it.
I like that because entrepreneurs listening here, we're coming to the end, is the same thing with your program. Get 5 or 6 beta testers. Don't charge them, but test out your system, your model, your course, whatever that is. It's such a powerful message. Think about that when you're doing that. It's great. I've done it. I mean, I do a free community, you know about it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning with through the community what they like, don't like, and then you're just that much better.
Yeah. And that's the
You
thing I'm
get the
trying to learn from
expertise.
you is trying to
Yeah.
learn how to build that community. I mean, I have that built-in background from doing radio here in San Jose for 30 years. But it's learning how to build that community. And that's the stuff that I'm learning from you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate me helping you with that because that you're in a boat that a lot of people are. They've got this network, but they don't know what to do with it. 30 years in radio. I mean, you just mentioned Jason Cole, NFL reporter,
Mhm.
and this Michael. You're building a heck of a quality network, but what you don't know, you don't know, and that's what we're working together to help you. And I'm so glad I can help you. Last question while we end this thing: what do you think your legacy is going to look like?
Probably about 6'5" and 6'2". Those are my children. Uh, that is truly what is going to matter to me. I've said before, you and I have talked, I'm a man of faith. I realized what I was here for when my kids were born. And I'm trying to do the same thing to them that my mother tried to do with me. She made a statement to me one day and she goes, you don't understand what my job is. My job is to teach you how to raise my grandkids. That's my job.
Mm.
And I tell them that all the time. My job is to help you with your kids. That it may make no sense to you now, but I promise you, your 15-year-old daughter is going to drive you up the wall, and you're going to have to go, "What'd the old man do?" And that's what I hope. I think people in radio. I don't think I've made a lot of enemies. I never was trying to be selfish about it. I never hated somebody who was on the air. If anything, I loved them more because they knew what my life was like and I knew what theirs was like. And I realized I never thought this business owed me anything. right? I figured when it was done with me, it would spit me out. So as far as that goes, I'm good with how everybody remembers me. I'm already have my own hall of fame. Just when somebody comes up and goes, as the meeting yesterday, I've got your jingle in my head. I grew up with you. But the main important thing is what my wife thinks about me and what my children tell their children. As I always say, I want to be that guy when his son comes up and goes, "Hey, Dad, tell me about your grandfather." And he goes, "Well, I didn't meet him, but let me tell you what my dad told me about him." That's where eternity lives.
It's so beautiful. Well, let's end with a fun question. I know you're going to love this question. So we're in the Bay Area. We're in San Jose together. You're going to tell me your favorite restaurant. I'm going to go book a table. Okay. I want
Oh,
you to invite 3 people
oh,
who've influenced you in your life. We bring your kids and your wife. They're not part of that 3, but 3 people that have made a difference. Obviously, 50 years in radio, I'm sure there's been a number of people. But for me, I want you to order the food for the table. What would you be ordering as well?
wow. So the whole restaurant thing, the Grandview restaurant, which is amazing. I love it. Love that place so much. It just have to drive to get there because it's up on top of a mountain here in San Jose, but
Yeah, Mount Hamilton. That's
it's
right.
spectacular. The views are amazing. And we're ordering. I'm a beef eater. I love their steaks, but they also make a ravioli and this cream sauce
Hmm,
that is, and it's like a brown cream sauce, and
interesting.
it is amazing. So I'm ordering that for the table along with some salads and I'm a Pinot Noir guy, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
start off with I'll start off with a nice vodka martini and then having a glass, and I'm off obviously Ubering.
Yeah. Especially from that mountain.
On that mountain. And the people who would be with me, man, that's a good one to spring on me. I would let me think because they have to be alive, right? So this is a real
No,
concept.
no, live or dead. No, it doesn't matter.
Oh wow, alive or dead. I would bring Connor Vernon, who was my first real program director, who heard something in me and said, "Hey, you come here. Let's try this." Right. And he was so stupid influential for me. And I don't even know he realized it. And he passed away recently, and I had lost contact with him. So I would love to have him there at that table so I could go, "Hey, man, thank you. You're the best." And if they're alive or dead, I'm sorry, nobody's more influential than my mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
I would have my mom there and hear her stories. So that's 2. Uh Gosh. You know what? I'm telling you, Julie Stevens has been my partner and my she's been my boss, my partner, and possibly my best all-time friend. She's alive. I'd have her there because she knows my stories and she could share them with everybody.
Oh,
And
love it.
then not just because you know him too, but my buddy Brian Kramer. Brian has been so influential in my life, and him and his wife, or my kids called them Uncle Brian and Aunt Courtney. When we've gone through good times, when we've gone through hard times, we've commiserated with them. They've always been those people who were there for us, that were a mainstay of our tribe, as we like to
Mm,
call it.
beautiful package. Beautiful table. Tell family's a big part of your life. And that's why I love asking the question. And we know what kind of food you like and drink, which is great. So next time you see Gary, audience, make sure you get him a vodka martini or Pinot Noir, and he'll be super happy. Tell us podcast, name of the podcast, and where can they find it?
It's Gary Scott Thomas. Here's what we know. You can find it at GaryScottThomas.com or wherever you get your podcast. And we still stream every day at KRTY.com. Julie and I are still doing that morning show Monday through Friday. So that's always fun. And that's one of my businesses too. I co-own that with them. So yeah, I'm out there and we have fun on the podcast, and we've talked to everybody. My background, as you can tell, is in country music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to do like 60-40 country music to everything else, but I've talked to everybody. I've talked to Olympic gold medal athletes and actors and comedians and audiobook narrators and authors. I mean, we're at 280 something episodes. So, which is nothing compared to your like 14,000 episodes.
A little
It's like
less than
anytime you talk to Steve,
950.
it's like, I don't know, I got six podcasts to do today. I don't have time for that.
And you're right. There was a point at one time. That's true. And they can connect with you, GaryScottThomas.com. You can connect
Yes.
with them if you have questions, especially for a podcast host. You know, what a powerful thing is subscribe to the YouTube channel. Gary, do you have a YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel. I have a Substack column. You can find me at GaryScottThomas.substack.com. And again, yes, the YouTube is, I'm always amazed as a radio guy how many people love watching you talk.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thousands of people.
Yeah. And
it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And, you know, subscribing to these podcasts or to these YouTube channels, excuse me, audience, it's a powerful gift. You're listening to this one. Say you grab this Gary podcast and you send it to somebody, you make a difference. Maybe they become a radio co-host or a disc jockey. Maybe they start their own podcast. He's impacted them, but you can't impact people until you give them the gift. I think the gift is the link to the podcast. So go ahead and subscribe. It doesn't have to be me or Gary's. Whoever you're listening to and you resonate with, subscribe. I've got 10 subscriptions, and I'll get one, and a show will come up, Gary, and go, oh, Joe, you need to see this. Check this out, or I'll share it to my community, whatever it may be. This is the power of all of this streaming.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just call it streaming. So with that being said, I'm going to call them GST. GST, want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.